I am going to withdraw the United States from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm going to tell our NAFTA partners that I intend to immediately renegotiate the terms of that agreement to get a better deal by a lot, not just a little, by a lot.
It's time to shake the rust off America's foreign policy. I believe an easing of tensions and improved relations with Russia from a position of strength only is possible, absolutely possible. Some say the Russians won't be reasonable. I intend to find out.
Today I'm here to talk to you about three crucial words that should be at the center, always, of our foreign policy. Peace through strength. We want to achieve a stable, peaceful world with less conflict and more common ground. I am proposing a new foreign policy focused on advancing America's core national interests, so important, promoting regional stability, and producing and easing the tensions within our very troubled world. This will require military warfare, but also cyber warfare, financial warfare, and ideological warfare.
Before you start watching this video, I want you to keep in mind the most important thing, period. At this moment in our history, in order to establish or to defeat a one-world government, the Russian constitution is the key factor. The group of people who will have the total control over the Russian constitution, that group will be the boss of this world. Whether you agree or disagree, but real facts speak louder than anything else. When we have the mainstream media silent on the event where hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Russians took to the streets all across Russia to support Putin, these people are directly demanding the freedom from the Washington. You may wonder what freedom these people are demanding. According to the Russian constitution, since 1993, Russia is the colony of the United States. During this event, the Russian officials told the people that the vote on the suspension of the Article 13 and the Article 15 Section 4 of the Russian constitution, the voting will be brought to the Russian White House very soon. This voting inside the Russian White House, it simply means total destruction of the one world government. As trends forecaster, it is essential to have a clear understanding of where we are and the knowledge of how we got here to see where we are going to. When criminals cannot hide their schemes any longer, that means they are ready to pull the plug on the current financial control system. Illuminati simply doesn't care any longer who knows their plans. The world is rising against the US colonial system of control. And if you start looking at the world from this perspective, then everything becomes so evident. In front of our eyes, we are witnessing a one-world government that is falling apart. First nail into one-world government's coffin was Brexit, or exit of the UK from the EU, and the second nail into one-world government's coffin was a failed military coup in Turkey. In order to win a fight against the US elite, Putin, or I should say the 80% of the rest of the world, needs a second Cuban Missile Crisis, either in Syria or in Ukraine. In my new video, I am talking about that Putin has crossed the red line, and the real war between the two superpowers has started inside the Russian government apparatus. Keep in mind that there will be only one winner and one loser, and this time the stakes are super high. You may wonder, what's the big deal about the Russian economic minister being removed from power? First, this information is going to be very important to people who live in America. This minister was put to that position by Washington, as many other ministers. Listen to this. Russia is the colony of the United States since 1991. Russia, from its resources, is paying $1 billion of US dollars to the United States budget every day. You get what I'm saying? These are not my words. I am not making this up. The Russian economic minister was the key person for the US elite in terms of controlling Russia from within. In Russian government apparatus, there are around 100,000 people who work directly and indirectly for Washington. And this economic minister was one of the big bosses put to that position by Washington, right? Putin started implementing the Turkey scenario of a failed military coup where Erdogan has removed more than 80,000 people from the Turkish government apparatus. It has started. Putin will do the same in Russia. Just remember that at this moment in our history, the control over the Russian constitution is the key factor. If you do not believe me, what I'm saying, just read this single paragraph of the Russian constitution. Please read it at least 3 times. And I promise you will get the main idea of what is about to happen in our world. Very credible sources are saying that Putin's backed people are working on a list of new people who will replace at least 10,000 of top people of those 100,000 people who work for Washington inside the Russian government apparatus. And this will happen very soon. As you saw at the beginning of this video, people in Russia who took to the streets, they were demanding the constitutional freedom from the US. The Russian government officials told those people that they are getting ready to vote on the Russian constitutional suspension. That voting alone will destroy London City and the United States elite. This and more will be covered in great detail in my new video. I want you guys to remember that the Russian constitution after the 1991 was written in Washington, as many other constitutions. You can even read your own constitution. If you live outside the US and UK, I am pretty sure that you will find in your country's constitution something that should not be there, and that something was written outside your country. But just read your constitution. Real facts speak louder than negative comments. According to the Russian constitution, Putin does not have real power inside Russian White House. For instance, if IMF says that pension age in Russia must be increased, and Putin will say that pension age in Russia must be decreased, the end result will be that pension age will be increased in Russia. It does not matter what Putin says, period. Putin's words, according to the Russian constitution, does not have legal power. But, on the other hand, according to the Russian constitution, if IMF says something and some politician will refuse to do it, he or she can go to jail. In this section in the Russian constitution, it states that, here, I am not making this up, I quote, if an international treaty or an agreement of the Russian Federation, that means if Putin fixes other rules than those established by law, the rules of the international agreement must be applied. In simple terms, that means IMF has more power inside Russia than Putin, period. At this moment in our history, there are only three scenarios for not only Putin, but for the whole world. Watch one of those three scenarios unfolding in the coming weeks and months. First scenario is that Putin during an economic forum in St. Petersburg was talking about Russia's position. Putin directly and indirectly was saying that if the United States will leave Russia alone and stop interfering in Russia's business, then there will be no direct conflict between Russia and the United States. But there is one issue with this scenario. It will allow Russia to rise as a superpower. And this scenario is equal to TS elite and one world government's total destruction in the very short term. The second scenario is that reshuffling of the Russian White House or Russian Duma, which means the death to the fifth column inside the Russian White House. That means privatization of all assets in Russia, which belong to the UK, EU, and the United States elite. Those assets are valued over $1 trillion US.